Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special, what night does it say? Thursday night edition of Speaking Moistly with very special guest host, Jeremy, Raging Dissident, Mackenzie.
Sure.
How's it going, sir?
I'm not bad. The internet's connected and stable, so that's a plus.
Fingers crossed that it stays that way.
Another day not assassinated. That's good.
Yes. Well, another day around the sun and all that. We tried to do this 2 weeks ago, or no, like a week and a half ago, Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then we tried to do this on like Tuesday, but schedules conflicted. And then, so here we are. So I'm glad that we're able to sit down. And the last time it looked like you were jittery. Like, I think there's like a marked difference in the connection. So
there was some kind of problem with the connection there.
Yeah.
Frequent problems with things like that. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Works now. What sounds like it's a later problem. I'll deal with it.
When
later.
I was in the 2019 election, when I was running for PPC, the amount of weird, inexplicable, like internet things that happened to me, I was like, this is, rebooting routers, rebooting computers, looking for problems where, so it's like, I have no idea. But I mean, it's been okay for the most part since then.
It's weird to think about, like, is this coincidental? Is this like, or is there actually an effort to just annoy the hell out of me, to just draw my attention and energy away from what I'm trying to do? Like, is that a move that people do? I don't know. Maybe they do.
I think probably it is. I think it probably is. Yeah. So the reason that I wanted to talk to you, the reason I wanted to have you on and interview you is this whole trucker convoy, the Freedom Convoy, Diagolon being name dropped in the Senate, the House of Commons. You're like the big bad. And I think I think that's wild, because like I talked to you before this thing all happened. You and me and Derek were on that live stream just before, like the day before the convoy kind of happened. And we were all kind of shooting the shit. You left for a little while, Derek and I chatted, and then you came back, and then I left, and whatever. But it was such a positive attitude that everybody had, and people were making jokes, but the whole thing was supposed to be about demonstrating dissatisfaction, let's say, with the Canadian government. And what it turned into was absolute madness. And like I still, to this day, the Senate has not completed a vote on the Emergencies Act, to my knowledge. I don't believe that that's happened. So as far as I understand it, the invocation of the Emergencies Act is either null and void or illegal. And nobody seems to want to report on that. What they want to report on is insurrection, right? Insurrection. Yeah. So can you take us, let's talk about the early days of what happened in the convoy, because I've talked too much already. Early days of the convoy, okay. What did it look like? And like, what happened when you got there, and what was the mood on the ground when this happened at the beginning for you guys?
I didn't know really what to expect. I think a lot of people weren't sure. I was just going to, just because it was kind of like Woodstock or something, it was just, I had the means, I had the time, I had nowhere else to be. And it was going to be something I was going to be sitting at home talking about and watching on the internet anyway. So I thought, well, screw it. I might as well go.
Yeah.
Why not? You know what I mean? And
did you get any, we talked about this last time, but did you get any messages from people saying, hey, you should go, you should
not really. I just kind of saw that it was taking place, and I just say, oh, I'll go. Yeah, screw it. Let's go. Like, I don't have a truck or anything. I have a pickup truck that I drive, but I mean, I don't have a truck. I just wanted to go and see, how, because the mood was different. The energy around it was different. This wasn't the typical, like, we're going to protest. Like, let's yell at empty buildings again. That's going to be really effective.
Well,
this seemed like the whole country was like, we're all going. Like, everywhere I looked in the usual spaces, I try to keep my finger on the pulse of I kind of like float in and out of different groups, and I watch different people you know what I mean? Just to try and get a sense of like what's going on. Yeah. And everybody was on this one. So I was like, whoa, this is going to be a big deal.
It's a big one. Yeah.
And the media was, no, there is no convoy, and there's no acknowledgement. Same thing they're doing right now with James Topp. Like, there is no convoy. Well, maybe there is one, but it's tiny. Okay, maybe it's a little bit bigger than, but it'll only be here for a couple of days. Maybe, they just kept moving the goalposts because they didn't know what to. So I didn't know what was going to happen, but when we got there, it was pretty quiet. When I got in, there was maybe a couple of trucks on Wellington Street. Like, there was nothing going on. The Thursday evening, I think I got it, and then a lot of them started coming in Friday afternoon, Friday night, and then it got crazy. Like a lot of, and they trapped a bunch of them on the expressway, the John A. McDonald's expressway, I think. I can't remember. The police were barricading roads and exits, and like I don't know how many trucks were trapped on, maybe 1,000 hundreds, it's certainly maybe not 1,000, maybe 200 or something.
Yeah.
But you could hear them from downtown honking out in the express. They couldn't get into downtown. The police trapped them there and then closed the road and wouldn't let them leave. And guys were just stuck in their trucks there for like a week or two. Something like this.
Like
and
they were just stopped on the highway, and that's it. You're not moving.
And
like
they were saying, no, that's not real. I had one of my guys go, and one of my buddies go down, and he was an Ottawa police officer, and he went and put a little camera on his car, and he went and drove, and sent it to me. He's like, oh yeah, there's hundreds of trucks down here, man.
Wow.
And they've just got officers blocking the roads, like, nope, nobody comes on, nobody comes off, and they were just there. But that was crazy. So there was an effort from the government immediately to try and stifle this and make sure you didn't, what they wanted to accomplish didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, what I called the Liberal headquarters to see if they had any comment on the convoy. Yeah, I said this last time too. They said no, it's not going to happen, and they won't be here, and they really refused to contend with reality in a way that kind of shocked me. And so
I honestly don't think that they believe that people disagree with them. Like when they say things like it's a fringe minority of, like, they believe this. They really can't fathom that the vast majority of the country despises them, and it does. It's like probably 60 to 70% of this country hates these people. Yeah, and it's
the direction that the country is moving in is certainly well. I mean, let's just take one measure: house prices.
Pick anyone you want, and I could probably go on about it for an hour. Like, pick a single thing in society, and I'll be like.
Trudeau came to power, sweeping to power, saying like, I'm going to make life more affordable for you. And he said, we're going to continue today. I reported it. We're going to continue making life more affordable. Like, who are you talking to, buddy?
Yeah. There's people in tent cities now. There's more on them. The prices are crazy. Like this is, and every week that it goes on is like crushing people, because they're using I talk to a lot of people. I'm sure you do too. Like they're using their credit cards and lines of credit and selling stuff around their house just to. They can't pay for, and they're just like, I don't know how long I can do this. Not long, not very long. You miss 2 mortgage payments, the bank takes your house. That's it. And that's when you have a country of people living $200 from paycheck to paycheck, before they're underwater, and you double the price of fuel. Inflation is the food prices are, I mean, whatever they say it is, it's 20% higher, 25% higher than it was a year ago, I'd say. So now those are 2 significant expenses, and and one feeds the other. The truckers industry and the infrastructure that's involved in delivering the goods and services, they all have to charge more to pay for the fuel. Like the fuel price is a huge problem, and it's on purpose, and it's a result of immense foreign policy errors and money printing and taxes. Like there's so many taxes
is like 75 cents in
the carbon tax. It's almost half of the price, which was just taxes. And I was ranting about this on my podcast the other night. It's like, how many times you pay taxes? Like the average Canadian has no idea when they go walk outside the house, they're getting raped 6 ways from Sunway. Like income tax,
so expensive. Oh my goodness.
Everything you do. Oh, did you have to buy that? Well, I'm in Nova Scotia, and the tax here is 15%,
even higher.
It's and you're just constantly having your money sucked out of your wallet. I think it's 7 out of every $10 a Canadian makes an income goes back to the government in taxes, and I'd say 75% of that 7 out of 10 dollars is wasted. Probably 70% of it. There's a very, very expensive bureaucracy that it funds, and that bureaucracy is like, well, we're very necessary. We charity scandal in Ukraine and SNC Lavalin. It's like, how? I mean, they just. It's we're basically their.
That's the greatest hits right there.
We're their tax farm. That's what the citizens of this country is. To the people that rule it. They're not here to help us. Like you said, like they come into power. Oh, we're going to make all this stuff. They just say these things they just say this
2 billion trees, reduction in 25% of your cell phone bill.
Because that's what the peasants want to hear, and it'll make them happy. But in reality, we just exist for them to get bigger and fatter on. That's it. They're parasites.
Well, it's actually wild. It's wild to live through, because I think this is exceptional. I think that people are going to look back on this and be like, holy
this is excessive, like really excessive. I mean, that's always how it's
or
been,
it's gonna. Well, I just think it's going to be a turning point in history. It's going to be like that point where we look back and say, like, this is the point where we lost, and we could have said, like, we could have done something and we didn't. Or we're going to look back on it and go, oh my goodness, like, look how close we came to really losing.
Something's going to happen. I don't think there's any way. I mean, this is not. And when I say this, I mean this widening chasm between there's 2 sides of society now, very clearly. It's not like there's 3 or 4. It's like you're either one of them or you're one of us. It's or vice versa. You know what I mean? It's that, and that gets bigger and wider
they're
every day.
stoking that kind of
Yep.
mentality. They're stoking that us versus them with the rhetoric around unvaccinated. And
I think it's a narcissism thing. I think it's an unwillingness, like they don't even acknowledge they've done anything wrong. They can't fathom it. It's not like they know, and they're like, well, they've got this master plan. Like they're just really dumb and very selfish and short-sighted and idiotic. And
Marco Mendocino sat in the house and lied about the arson, right? And then he got called out by people in the committee, which is great. But they're that bold. Like you're saying, like they're dumb. And I think they're brazen and they're bold, and I think they think they're going to get away with it. Yeah, arrogant. Oh yeah,
they may not, but
they might.
They're going to leave holes out. Like they're not. I would be a lot more concerned if this was like their grandparents' generate. Like this isn't. These people are not Benito Mussolini or Joseph Stalin or something, right? Like these are, for the most part, lazy, imbecilic. They make mistakes constantly. I mean, there was a picture of the old mental Marco there with the RCMP commissioner, and she literally had a ham sandwich in her pocket. Her pocket was all sideways and screwed up, and their belt was off sideways. I'm like, she can't even dress herself. I mean, it's like big deal. Like, no, it is a big deal. Like, I used to work in a career like that where your dress and deportment, it's called, is like very important. To just have something slightly askew is like, whoa, like you're going to be in trouble. Like your sergeant's going to grab you and beat you to death. And their boss is like, oh, you're just rocking a ham sandwich half out of your pocket and your belt's on sideways. And this is just how we're doing it now. Is it just whatever we want? Who cares? Why don't you just throw a backwards hat on while you're at it, Brenda? Why not just do these people are clowns. It makes sense. And I'm watching them, this examination over the EMA and stuff. They're asking them questions. Nobody has any answers for anything. They're all just saying, cabinet confidentiality. And I don't know. They have no idea what they're doing.
Any engagement with answering a question would it's like pleading the fifth. They want to plead the fifth.
They might as well just say, I would respect them more if they just said, I don't answer questions. We just don't answer questions.
I don't answer questions that would incriminate me.
Yeah, just say, like, they ask a question, they say, no thanks, we don't answer questions, because that is what they're doing. But
so
at least they be honest about it.
I want to get back to the convoy because we're way off, but it's fun.
I do that.
So it's all good. We were talking about sorry, my son is apparently blowing a whistle. So
okay, I didn't know that was here or there. I heard something.
There's something just hit the door and then the whistle went. So the kids circle. It's okay. They should be going up to bed soon, maybe. But fundamentally, last time we talked about snipers, and I was asking snipers on Parliament Hill looking down, and I said, if you looked higher, did you feel surveilled? Were there surveillance plane? And weeks ago, 100%.
I mean,
the big story was that yes, they were doing training sessions over there, but surveillance.
I have personal stories that were like really ridiculous. Like you were saying earlier, like I'm apparently like I say it like tongue in cheek. It's supposed to be funny. Like I'm not always trying to make joke. Clearly, like sometimes I'm trying to make a point, but a lot of times I'm just screwing around and trying to do stuff for my own amusement to be funny, because that's what I'm a clown. That's what I do.
Well, on my show I call Mark Carney like yellow teeth. Mark Carney,
God, he is
so like and
goblin face.
Right, exactly. Well, and I mean, like I say that because it's one of those things that really matters in politics, right? So I think that it's worth pointing that out. Like if you have yellow teeth or something that's recognizable, you're not going to get get and Mark Carney would have a hard time getting elected. So he's going to stay in the appointed bureaucrat kind of section of things because of his yellow teeth.
They called me all these things. So I just say like I'm a supervillain. I'm the anti-government supervillain. I'm the bad guy. I'm all kinds of things.
Embrace it.
Because it's ridiculous on its it's absolutely crazy. And so I'm just leaning right into it and having fun with it.
So what drives you to think that the government believes that you're a supervillain? What kind of surveillance did you endure?
First, I mean, there's the regular stuff in the crowds. It's not abnormal. You have, like, snipers their primary job is observation anyway. That's what they're for. Like it's not but other weird stuff, like people were following me around, and there was the place I was staying had car like in the middle of nowhere. Like we were 40 minutes outside the city in like a farm. We weren't down to, and there was a bunch of us coming, like it turned into like a big community party, like all the the Diagolon terror cell. We had people coming from all over the country hanging out and meeting, and we were like cooking food and drinking.
I saw some of your live streams and I thought they were
we would go into the city together and everybody would have, and we'd come back out at night, and we'd honestly it was one of the best times of my life. It was incredible. It was like a 3-week long street party with the whole country, like everybody cool in Canada pretty much that was there somewhere around. You could find them or text them, and it was like all these people I'd seen or come across on the internet over the last 3-4 years. They're all in Ottawa for the most part, like 90% of them. It was like, oh shit, I know you, and you. Now we're all friends. We all know each other. So that
you ran into Greg, but you guys were friends before that.
Oh yeah, I've known him. I've met him, ran into him a few times before that. But yeah, Greg was there. Like there's everybody was there. It was
everybody
crazy.
was there. Yeah, and like I saw streams from I think Dan Dix, and there were other.
I didn't see Dan, but I know he was there. Dan, I don't think he likes me very much. That's okay. But I never ran into him. But I've
never talked to him either. But like he's kind of in that. He's out west anyway, so like the time difference is a little bit makes it weird.
One of those BC weirdos.
Yeah, he probably smokes a lot of weed. But
who would do that? I don't know.
Right? Glad you got the joke. So
anyway, I sorry, I get sidetracked. So anyway, we're staying at this farm, and they're, the owner, the guy that owned the place, is like, I've lived here for like his whole life, and he's like, I've never seen, like, there would be a car parked in the other driveway, and he's like, who, like, that never happens. Why? Like, who is this? And go down there, and he'd be like, oh hi, I'm a farmer too, and I'm like, okay, and he's like, I'm just making sure you don't need help. I'm like, no. Why would I need help? What do you mean? Like, it's really cold out. It's cold out here. I'm like, I'm a 35-year-old man, and do I look like I'm in trouble? And he's wearing brand new like Arc'teryx everything, and probably a rental car. I'm like, okay, farmer cop. It was ridiculous. Stuff like this. And then there was like the dogs were barking one night, and it was pitch black, so you can't see anything. But the next morning, it's like, I'm gonna go out because I'm curious. And we just landed like within a week or something. Oh yeah. So what they did was when you're doing, reconnaissance on a position or a target, or, there's a term that the Army calls cloverleafing, where like, whatever you want to see is here, but you come at it from this angle, then you go around this way, and then you come in this way, and you want to get a look at it from as many different, points as possible. So I just stood there and I was like, if I was them, I would be down here, and I would be over there, and I would be, and everywhere you went, there was coffee cups and footprint. And it's like miles from anywhere. There's no reason for anyone to be walking around this property, and it was like mid-February. It's like minus 30, and it's like the middle of the night. Like, so it's just coincidentally there's groups of men. You can follow their footprints and see where they stand around. They're all talking to each other, and they split up, and two of them go this way and two of them go that way. And I'm like, taking pictures of license plates and probably maybe some listening devices or something like this. But I was like, and some people were getting freaked out. They're all worried about it. And I'm like, guys, we're literally just screwing around. Like, if we were like hiding, boxes of grenades we were planning to use for it, I would be worried, because they're clearly onto us. Right.
We're not doing anything.
Yeah, they're clearly onto us. It's like, oh no, Ferry, they're gonna find your memes, I guess. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. It was so stupid.
Exactly.
And I got pulled over a couple of times for silly reasons, like for nothing, and they were like checking the tread depth of my tires, and like,
you were arrested. You were arrested twice, right?
Not there, but before I left and after I got back, and probably soon again, whenever they, maybe I'll sneeze too loud. They'll come get me for that.
Jeepers creepers. Yeah, I hope not. Okay. So what was the feeling on the ground when you went into Ottawa? Oh, you're saying, no, when you went into Ottawa, the cops, like I was always seeing footage, like the first couple of weeks,
they were
chilling out. People,
they were fine
I saw footage of police officers, OPP and other police officers letting people, like protesters, sit in the cop cars and like taking pictures.
They were supportive for the most part. They were pretty supportive of it.
Yeah.
And they were like, this is great for me. He's like, this is the easiest overtime gig I've ever had. They were like, we're just sitting around making time and a half to, hang out at a street party.
Yeah. And they brought it
weeks, and
then they brought in the horses.
And then the mood changed, because they were told to, like, okay, now go hurt these people now. Go beat them.
Well, there was no violence from the truckers, and Trudeau kept saying there's going to be violence. And so
they wanted there to be, so that they'd have an excuse to get rid of their problem.
I think it's interesting
that was the thing that was interesting about it, because everyone knew that. There was no one in the crowd or anyone I talked to was like, we gotta do something. Everyone was like, just stay put, and that's it. There's nothing they can do. Everyone knew, like, no one so much as threw a snowball or spit at anybody, like nothing. We just kind of and they knew that as long as we did that, they have what are they going to do? They're going to come in and I was like, yeah, they'll come in and beat the shit out of everybody. No one thought that was possible. I'm like, well, you'll see. They did eventually, but they need that excuse to do what they did, and they didn't get it, so they just invented one. They just pretended.
Yeah, they did. They said the Emergencies Act was invoked, and then in the Senate and in the House of Commons, Diagolon was name dropped directly. anybody watching was and paying attention during that time was there. It was repeated
at least 8 or 9 times.
Yeah, there was somebody who put together a shortcut, and I don't have I don't have it, but there were people who were paying enough attention to say like, holy smoke, like everybody's name dropping this. And it seemed like, I thought, if this goes the wrong way, you could be in a lot of trouble. Like, I thought this is like because and not that I thought for half a second that you were planning any kind of insurrection. I want to be really clear. I didn't think, oh my goodness, Jeremy's planning an insurrection and he's in a lot of trouble.
I would have done a much better job if that was my plan. I would have spent much less time drinking and screwing around.
Right. Like, I mean, the live streams you were doing would just belie the whole lie, right? Like, it's like, no, this is not the countenance of a person who's plotting to do anything drastic. This is not that. I had
a cop actually call me and ask about it. And I've got I'm really not a big fan of these guys anymore after the last, but he's like, I'm not investigating you. And I was like, sure, buddy. And he wanted to ask about all these other people. And he's like, well, we talked for a little while, and then he's like, all right, I'm gonna be straight with you. I've been investigating you for 6 weeks or 4 weeks, something like that, about this. And he's like, I can't find anything that, So what happened was, you've got Bernie Farber's Canadian Anti-Hate Network, which is a propaganda tabloid for the, extreme far left element of the country, which is funded by the government.
They're excuse me, they're trying to pass, I think it's C18, might be C11.
Oh yeah.
They want to, and Farber's on the committee or board or whatever, one of them, for regulating the speech online. These are the people they're trying to put in charge of the speech online.
This is the guy that's going to decide what is allowed on the internet and what isn't. And he's also the guy that had the, there's Nazi flyers downtown and there's going to be another Holocaust. This was a hoax. He deliberately lied. He knew he was lying, and he did it anyway. And
Marco Mendocino did that though as well. Say, just to point out,
and they say that later, like, oh, sorry, I made a mistake. It was just a whoops. I'm like, you just called. You insinuated and inferred that tens of thousands of Canadians down here are they're Nazi sympathizers, and they're throwing up swastikas everywhere and all this stuff. That's what you said, Bernie. You said all these things. You were wildly inaccurately wrong, criminally, in my that's
well, I mean, that's not wrong. That's totally it's deliberately lying.
And this is the expert that's going to now handle. You don't even know what's true at the best of times. Like, if that's what we're doing, and I say he's lying on purpose, but he's going to be the guy
he's going to but that's a part of it, right? Like, you can't definitively say what's true because of your own personal biases that you may or may not be aware of at any one time. But if you say this is the only way to look at this and this is what's true, and vaccines are safe and effective, that's it.
It's the Soviet Union. It's the Ministry of Truth. It's all
right.
That's what they want. They want to have a monopoly over the information so they can control your thought process and your behaviors.
Yeah.
And Farber and that group, so they've been writing, slanderous defamation hit pieces on a lot of people, not just me, but I'm one of their favorite targets for the last couple of years.
That's interesting.
And they needed a bad guy. They needed something they need this, their favorite thing is the white supremacist terror cell. That's like their ultimate boogeyman. There's Nazis in the woods with the skull masks and the guns, and they're coming. Like, this is what they love the most. And we played into that. I did this for about a year or two with them. I was screwing around like with the flag, and we would like take pictures with the skull masks and stuff, literally just to troll them. CTV News used that photo and thought it was like a gotcha moment. And I was like, I took this at a family barbecue with my friends as a joke, on you. You're stupid. And I put like redacted over our own faces. And it says redacted, and the people in the comments were like, CTV, why would you hide their faces and stuff? It's like, yeah, CTV, why? Oh, did you mean you just lifted this page? You don't even know where this photo came from, did you? You imbeciles. You didn't even ask. So they wound up all these crazy stories. And they're like, well, how do we stop these people? I have an idea. Somebody fed them this Diagolon narrative. Nobody asked questions. Nobody looked into it. There was reports going around, and he's reading from something. There's a couple of them. They're reading something. I'm like, I want to know what that is. Who wrote that? What is this? Where did it come from? Who paid for it? And they don't know what they're talking about. None of these senators, none of these, they're just reading what was handed to them. Who handed it to them? So they said it, and then the police said, okay. And then they went to go look for the terrorists, and they're looking and can't find any because none exist. And now we're in this awkward position where the government is scratching its head going, well, it was an emergency and it was really scary, but we can't tell you what it is because it's too scary.
Yeah.
Like, is it
Yeah.
too scary, or it's so embarrassing and ridiculous that
Yep.
you declared war on a man's imagination to save yourselves from public protest because you're that bad at your job? That's what happened. Okay.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
admit the truth. And they're like, no, it's cabinet confidence and all this stuff. That's fine. But if it wasn't me, and there's people, some like, oh, if it wasn't us in the Dagalon, well, what was it? What else was mentioned?
Yep.
They mentioned this 9 or 10 times. And other than that, it was, oh, maybe there's a rapist happen. Oh, there's an arson or something. Like, just
Well, there was the
haphazard pointing of fingers to nothing. Like,
well, they keep pushing back and saying the Coots border had weapons, but that's not true either.
And the weapons were found at a different location.
It wasn't.
Those guys are being. One of them I met twice and took a picture with him once because he's huge. He's a massive, huge man, and I, jokingly, tagged him as he's the head of security for Diagolon, right? Because he's a fan of the podcast and he's got a foot, whatever, right?
Yeah, sure,
so they ran with this, and when he was arrested, they literally we captured their head of security, they got it. I'm like, oh my God, you're dumb. Yeah. And there's patches out here. And it's like, well, Jesus Christ. If one of these guys was wearing a Toronto Maple Leafs hat, when he was arrested, does that mean is Matt Sundin coordinating some kind of insurrection against the government? Like, you're making some pretty strong leaps here of, with no evidence or nothing to connect them. And they'll say themselves, well, there's no evidence that these guys, Mackenzie was in contact with me. Yeah, because it doesn't exist, because I wasn't, because I don't know anything, how the hell am I supposed to know what's happening in Coots, Alberta? I was in Ottawa the whole time.
Yeah.
And on camera, almost all of it,
right. And understand,
and being surveilled by CSIS. I'm being investigated in 7 different provinces by the RCMP, at least that I'm aware of.
Wild.
So all of them, pretty much.
Do they call you and tell you that you're under investigation?
No, it's come out as part of the disclosure through my lawyer, because he's asking, as I got a good lawyer, luckily. I just happened to, as a chance of fate, he's one of the top 10 criminal defense attorneys in the country.
Well,
and he's like, well, let's see what they got here. And he's pushing for every email to, every text message, everything. And it's just like it's painting a very clear picture of what's going on. Yeah. And it's just a hit job. They're like, somebody pointed their finger and said, get him. That's what it looks like is happening. And he's like, yeah, I've got papers here from this and there. Some of it is referencing a file that was so big on me that the York Regional Police Organized Crime Unit had on me. I've never even been to York, but it is Bernie Farber's home area. So that's an interesting thing to remember. They purelated the hard drive up to the RCMP in Nova Scotia for whatever reason they needed. They all had a big meeting about me, this whole thing. It's like, what in the hell is going on? Meanwhile, you've got, I just posted this on my Telegram earlier. There's openly Marxist communist revolutionary groups operating in campuses around the country, talking about how communism killed 100 million. This is a very, so they're accusing me on the one hand of being a violent extremist and belonging to some kind of violent extreme ideology that wants to overthrow the government, while ignoring an actual violent extremist ideology that wants to overthrow the government.
Yeah,
and it's like I can't even.
Almost unbelievable. It
is, and they can't let it get out. It's just such a funny. This should be. I don't know what movie I would make of this, but it has to have Will Ferrell in it somehow as the Minister of Public Safety. I think this is just buffoonery at the highest level. It's comedic. Like,
you're not wrong. Well, one of the things I'm constantly asking for on my show is the name of the white supremacy group that is threatening Justin Trudeau, because I would love to interview them. I would love to look at their website and see
where are they?
Who are these people? Who are these alt-right white supremacists?
They keep talking about this rising threat of these boogeymen. Well, where are they? Who are they?
I mean, and like the insinuation is like I keep saying like I think they think it's me, right? Like, but I and not to say like I'm not, but I think it's so ridiculous that it is regular everyday people who are just everyday Canadians who just want to have, like, our country fundamentally was built on cheap energy, cheap gasoline, cheap food, right? Because of the cheap gasoline and the cheap energy and all of that stuff, because we're an oil producing country, that's what this country was built on. And all of a sudden they're saying, you can't do any of that. And if you want to continue your way of life, you're a horrible, terrible person. Mm-hmm. And that's a really, I don't think people are willing to go there. So that's what
they're doing is literally cultural genocide.
Yes.
Like,
yes, I totally agree with you.
The culture of Canada is to be destroyed. Everything that it was will be gone and needs to be changed to something else. That is, and this is coming at no, with no input from the citizens. There was no vote held
No.
or referendum on
No.
this. No one
Yep,
was
I agree.
asked if we wanted to do any of these things. So you're just imposing this, this system on these people. And then when they rise up and say, well, what are you doing? Very peacefully with bouncy castles, I might add, your immediate instinct is to beat them with guns.
Yes.
And I'm supposed to believe that you're the good, and so I look at and I'm aware they watch everything I'm doing, like CSIS and the RCP. So I say things directly at them sometimes, like, how do you live with yourself?
Yeah.
Like tell me how I'm wrong here. Like, explain this to me.
Well, it is interesting,
like,
because I have live streams that I do. Like I do my show, and like I record my show because I can't live stream at the same time. And like sometimes you have to pause it for random kids opening doors. And so I'll do
random kids, your own kids, or just neighborhood kids.
Random kids will show up and open the door and like, have to go help.
Bottle kids.
All right. But like, so the I lost my train of thought.
Live streaming, you have to.
Oh yeah. So at the end of my live stream, so I'll come back, like it's usually an hour show, so I'll leave and come back, and there's always like somebody watching. There's always, and it's like a black screen and it's been a black screen for like 45 minutes, and like everybody else is left. One person's there left watching, and I'm like, the cop is there to see if they catch some kind of.
And honestly, like from what I've gathered, and like this is just me being on the other end of, like, it's not even the police that's doing it. It's someone from anti-hate or Antifa or what. They're not even being paid. Probably they're just ideologue, obsessed maniacs, and that's their job, to sit there and record, like keep track of everything that you say and do. So if you say something once or that you could take out of context or twist or whatever, gotcha. And then they, they got that clip and they send that off to. Send that off to Evan Balgord at the Anti-Hate Network, and then they use it for whatever, the rest of their Twitter army of anonymous heroes that they have to, try and ruin people's lives.
They did more of that to me. So like there was coordinated campaigns to get me removed from Twitter during the 2019 campaign. They would have, entire campuses report, like mass report tweets and things like that to do that. So, but since then,
are you still on Twitter? No, yeah, you are.
I'm on Twitter, but not on YouTube, and everything is shadow banned. So I want to talk with you about censorship. Censorship for me is, my views are skewed massively. Like there are places where the views are pretty accurate, and I gauge that just between, like, if the likes are 10%, then it's pretty. Then I think, okay, that's pretty in line with like my average before. YouTube started messing with things. But like Rumble, I had 51 likes, 35 views, and 14 comments.
Yeah, I've noticed Rumble's had something has happened to everything in the past, like pretty much end of February, early March.
Last 3 months, 6 months.
Everybody who was was saying anything has had serious. I don't know how they did it. I'm not that technically educated to know exactly how it would work, but it's almost like there's some software or some AI or something has been applied to, like, not just like, because erasing people off the internet is one thing. Like it's like plausible deniability, right? Yeah. They can just say, "Oh, nobody's censoring you. Your views are just down 99% across the board, across all platforms, all at the same time." Yeah. Oh, that's fine. Instagram did that to me. Like there's a bunch of them. It's like stuff that I could normally, and there's no real tangible difference from one post or one video from one to the other. One, they're going from 25,000, 50,000 views to 2,000. I'm like, right on. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. And it's, that's just how they,
it's a soft censorship, because you feel like you're
it's
you're not
the 2,000 people
material.
The people that see it are people that already follow everything you do anyway. So you're like, now, you're in this internet ghetto where you can't get out. Yeah. So whatever you got, like,
so I started another channel, like Canada Poly Shorts, because I was like, okay, I'll do my show. I'll put it on Rumble and whatever. And I'll put short clips that don't violate any kind of, because I had a hard time, because I'm like, screw your speech censorship. I'm not going to play.
I know the feeling.
Right. Yeah. So I was being all rebellious, and I wrote a little book about my show being canceled. So that's fine. But,
nice.
But I was like, okay, I can get back on this way. So as soon as I got to like 800 subscribers, I got a strike, and they were basically like, if you keep this up, buddy, you're not, one, if you get to 1,000, you're not monetizing this. And two, if you keep this up, we're going to remove you again.
Yeah. I refuse to monetize anything. Like I'm on my 5th YouTube channel.
Yeah. That's how to not get, like,
and I just refuse to engage in it. Like and number two, like I'm not giving them any money. Cause like if someone gives me, like when someone sends us those super chat donations on YouTube, they take half of it. Like 45%, I think is the cut on YouTube, which is like,
that's massive.
Like that's ridiculous. You're a fool to, be doing that. But I still use it because that's the most popular platform. That's what most people like to use. It's the easiest one, whatever. But I just use it.
Yeah, it's a huge.
I'm not there to give them money. I'm there to tell people how fucking crazy this is and how horrible all of this is, and this is not helping them. I think they just gave up. They gave how many strikes and how many channels, and I just and I think because it's so long, I simply outlasted them. They got to sit there and watch me for 14 hours a week nonstop. Like they're already getting through the last 2 streams, and I've got 5 more on top. I think they just burned out under the workload. I think I broke some of their sense. So and then the Antifa people just can't handle it anymore. And I mock them. I mock them every night, all the time, ruthlessly. I just come. I'm like, I know you're gonna. I'm just gonna make another one and another one and another one, and I do. And it's like you're wasting your time. And I get right back. It doesn't take me long. A few months, I'll be right back where I was before, and it doesn't really slows me down a little at best.
The thing for me is I can't grow. It doesn't matter. I can't grow. Nobody.
It's very slow.
I don't get it. Not I don't get it. I 100% get it. But like, the first day I posted on Telegram, I had like almost 2,000 views. And I was like, oh, okay. And that was like YouTube numbers. Like when I would post on YouTube, I would have 500 views within 20 minutes. And that was like what I got used to. And then, so now they're just like drawing down the views to a point where it's
Telegram has had the same,
and Telegram
has like flattened entirely.
Yeah. You can't,
it's very strange.
I can't, well, I know that like I have 400 subscribers now, which is fine. But when I post something, like 2 hours later, it's like 68 people have looked at it. I'm like, 400 subscribers, like 68 people were like, oh, okay, later.
I think they've got means and ways to do it. And the guy owner is a WEF guy. I think his name is Pavel something.
He's a Russian too, isn't he?
Yeah,
everybody was like, he's a Russian.
He's on the team, right? If they decide to,
everybody
put a call in.
Everybody's on the team. Sometimes I do gym looks at the camera on my cell phone. If something weird happens, I look at wah wah, right?
Yeah.
You guys want a reaction GIF? Here it is.
Yeah. Gab is not bad. That one I don't think is it.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's pretty
well. He's very openly like
Orba's like militantly anti the system, so I don't think he's so, but it's mostly Americans on there, like, so it's not as good for us for now.
See, that's what I was like. It's really hard to get really engagement on Gab if you're the only Canadian content, because people are like, and like I'm trying so hard for other bits of content that are like other places that I'm trying to do that with. So.
I try and use everything because it's almost like speaking different languages. Like not everyone, like lots of people use YouTube, but there's a bunch of people that don't. They only use Odyssey. They only use Rumble.
Odyssey's really
only
good.
Use Facebook. They only use Instagram. They only use, so it's like you got to be everywhere.
I got taken off Facebook. They didn't tell me. I don't know why.
I got. It's tough.
Yeah.
I get to the point where I just don't say anything on certain ones where it's like I've hit enough landmines now that I think I'm good at, like, I know what you can get away with saying and what you can't. Like that one's going to get you banned, or that one's going to get you taken.
Yeah. You engage in the whole Ricky. Did you see the Ricky Gervais, the new woman?
Not yet. I saw that clip, but I didn't see.
Okay, I haven't seen the whole thing either, but I saw that clip and I thought, nailed it. Yeah. Good job.
Yeah, he couldn't put that on Facebook. You're banned forever.
You're done. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Everybody would be like, "This is horrible. You made the world a sadder place."
Yeah. I pretty much just post links to my show and that's it. With no.
See, I don't even post stuff. I haven't posted on Facebook now in years.
Yeah. They get my. I've had to ban them. My other page is banned. I just use my own. I had a regular person Facebook page that I had for like just friends and fans, and then it's like, fine, I don't care. I'm just using that now. Yeah. I've been slandered in the media enough times. I think it's cats out of the bag. Everybody knows I'm a terrorist now, so I don't really care.
Okay, so do we have more about the convoy that we want to talk about? I have like 2 questions that are after the convoy that are like don't really have anything to do with the convoy, that are kind of like wrap up questions that are kind of funny. But I don't think we're there yet. Like after the police turned, after the
because there was 3 side.
Yeah, there were 3 weeks there where people were
Yeah.
like, I got this hot tub, yo. And like
Yeah.
people
Yeah,
were giving food out
it was
to
getting
homeless
bigger
people.
every weekend. The weekends were where it was crazy. Like Friday,
Yeah.
Saturday night was like festival level. It was like
Yeah.
huge Canada Day party every Friday and Saturday, and then even through the week, it was like there was impromptu street parties all over the place. Like
Nice. Yeah.
Metcalf and Slater. I was walking through, and this happened in the run of a whole night. One part of the evening, I walked by, and there was a bunch of trucks parked in this parking lot, and there was a guy who was like frying out. He had like a little tent, and he had like a little DJ booth or something. There's kind of people having like a little dance party or something. The guy was flipping hot dogs. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. I came back. I was coming back that way at like 3 a.m. In that time, there had been like towers constructed where women were dancing in their underwear. Somebody had a bubble in a fog machine. I was like, what is going on? Like, it just,
what
within
happened?
hours, a nightclub had appeared within hours. This is like February in Ottawa, and I'm just like, this
Somebody's
is crazy.
making bongs out of apples, like
oh yeah, it was wild. There's probably 200 people there just in this little pocket. I was like, okay, because there was a shawarma shop right there. I was going to get something to eat, perfect. And I was like, oh look, came back, and the guy's like, oh, how's the shawarma? I was like, no, there's a bar downtown that's open. Like, what? It's like, oh, well, you want to go check it out? Some chicks down there. It was wild. It was great. It was the most I didn't have a negative interaction with anybody for the most part. It was pretty everybody was having a great time, and it was just kind of a healing experience for a lot of people, they would say, because it was feeling of isolation, and they create this false perception that everyone thinks this way because that's the only input you get is from your TV, your phone, your the media, and they're all on the teams. They'll say the same thing, but in reality, most 60-70% of us are not down with this stuff, and we don't. And now we're all here together, and we're like, oh, good,
great. Hey, and nice to see you.
for every person that was there was 10 that wished they wanted to go but couldn't. So it was 50. I would say this,
I just couldn't put together a good use case. I was like, because I've got daily things I got to do. I got young kids,
and people have kids and jobs and things like that. Man. Some guys were coming back and forth on the weekends and stuff, but it was getting bigger and bigger. So they had to shut it down because it was never going to end.
It was going to topple the government. It was going to topple the government. That's why
it would have brought the government down, and that was the goal. The goal, not topple. The goal was to hold like this. This needs to be addressed right now. Someone needs to talk about what's happening. Honestly, like we're not going anywhere until that happens. So get the hell out here and talk to these people. And they refuse to do it. So they think that's how they're going to win somehow, by just beating people into the ground and cutting their tongues out.
It's like proroguing parliament. So like they weaponized the police to prevent the government falling. And I don't mean that you were leading an insurrection and you were going to take over the government. I mean that politically, the pressure the truckers were putting on the government by just saying, no, you're wrong. We're staying. Was enough to put enough political pressure that the NDP would have crumbled, and they would have called a snap election, and they would have gotten rid of Justin Trudeau.
It could have happened. It could have.
It could have. And then, but what they did is they weaponized the police, and they brought in the horses, and they crushed the rebellion. They crushed the rebellion. They crushed the street party.
I mean,
they crushed the image. They crushed Canadians.
The image of a Clydesdale warhorse being ridden by a Royal Canadian Mounted Police officer standing on the body of a Indigenous elder woman. I mean, that told you all you needed to know about that whole situation and how this was going to go. And so I hold those cops accountable. Like they basically stabbed the country in the back when they did that, when they were like given orders, go out there and put these people, like, if what they were doing was illegal, why has nothing? It's been weeks.
Nothing's been done. And
you declared an emergency. And it's an emergency because there's an imminent threat or something. Like, this is why they won't talk about it, because it was, I want to see what's on those papers. I would bet my legs that there's some kind of, they've worded it or phrased it in a way like, pretty soon, these guys are going to attack, and you don't want to look what happened in Coots. There's conspiracy. We got to act now before we have to. What else did they sell them on to say that, like, and now you've had the RCMP say, well, we didn't ask for it. And CISA says, well, it wasn't our idea. And the Ottawa police, well, it wasn't us. Well, whose idea was it? Was it yours, Bernie? Bernie Farber? Was it your idea? Like, somebody said,
it was somebody's
this
idea.
Is why we have to do it. And they rubber stamped it, and away they went. And shame on those cops and all those people. Like, you didn't, for one, like, go, this is crazy. Like, I'm not doing this.
I'm sure there were cops.
And they just did
so it. Like in the population of police officers, you're going to get cops who are like, well, I've seen cops that were interviewed by Joe Warmington and other people who lost their jobs or got charged with police service violations and things like that, or whatever, for speaking out against what they view as violations of our basic rights and violations of the charter, and they're not going to do that. So there are cops who will stand on their morals and not do that, say no sir or madam, and then there are cops who are going to try and melt into the background. And like I've heard people say, you know, mortgage, you've got, you know, all these responsibilities, and you know, like, man, you have to contend with that you can't say, you know, well, blah blah blah, you can't wave that away. That does exist, and there are people who are going to try and go along to get along and keep their heads.
But my issue with them is like, that's not what we pay you for. You know, you're not the garbage truck driver. You know what I mean? Like, your job is to literally protect the country, and you know what I mean? And it's like, we're in the middle of a crisis. Leadership is needed, and you're the guys that with the guns that we pay, and you've decided to stand down because it's scary. You don't get to be scared. You don't get to be that's why you're a police officer. Okay. These guys at this inquiry in Nova Scotia, they're like, well, we were scared. We ran away. They didn't pursue Wortman because they were afraid. This kind of shit. And you've got these cops in Texas, like that shooting down there. Well, we didn't go into the school. We didn't know what to then you're fired. We can't pay you. And they gave these guys a 27% pay raise after this, which is an unprecedented, insanely, that's a bribe. And it was retroactive for 4 years. So they basically, every RCMP officer got $150,000 check in hand, and then they're making a 27% raise on top of that.
I didn't know anything about that.
Oh yeah, they got back pay for retroactive 4 or 5 years of pay. So what's a 27?
These are the kind of headlines that you don't see.
Well, why would they publicize that? I read it. I put it on my show, but it didn't go too far, because why would they bribed them? They paid them 20. That's a huge, you know, inflation, you know, well, they're going to be fine. But normally, like the average worker, you might get a 1 to 2% pay raise every 2 years.
Well, right.
And if you're a parliamentarian, you're one of these people that is just a robbing parasite, you get a 7 to 8% raise.
I was going to say 8%,
like they do. But these guys 27%, and they're already making 120,000 a year or something like that. What are they making? Were they a millionaire? You want to make them all millionaires?
They do. Well, that's what you need for a house these days.
They were rewarded for their loyalty to the empire. You know, that's what they did. And so I don't, and now especially, like, how do you do that? I was just out walking, you know, with Morgan earlier, and there's one of them drove by us, RCMP waved at us. I'm like, I'm not waving at you. You're part of the sort. You're still drawing a paycheck.
You're doing this, man. Yeah.
And you're the kind of guy that sees, you know, the government come through in a high stakes kind of a career, like the military. There's camaraderie there. There's, you know, life and death shit goes sideways. You have to be able to depend on each other and protect each other. And you rolled over on your own people and let them fire guys and let them just destroy them because they didn't want to do this vaccine program. And you were like, oh, well, but what about me? Pension, paycheck, promotion. You're not my kind of person, man. Like, I don't care what the excuse is. So cops, you know, no, I've seen enough out of this country for those people.
Right. And I mean, like, that's the other side, certainly. And it's scary that we're at that point where speaking out for what's right will cost you your job. There's no two ways about that. That's it. Like, so it's,
and that's how, you know, like the country's in trouble. Like like people are afraid, like there's just a general sense of unease. And like, if, you know, if you talk to people who are from like, you know, when it gets real bad and it's like, oh, it's not that bad. We're not Cuba. We're not China. It's like, yeah, we're trying to stop it from getting there because that's where we're going. And if you talk to people from places like this, when they would talk about the government, they would like whisper and like kind of, they get nervous. And like, that's where we're getting there. People are kind of like, they don't really want to say, they don't know that, especially they don't know or trust who it is they're talking to. You know, and it's created this chilling effect. Well, maybe we'll just cancel your bank account. Did you send $20 to a trucker? We're going to terminate your bank account. How
dare you? Right? Yeah, exactly. Your mortgage is going unpaid. That's that, right?
Oh, and two of those. They're doing it. And how many people are still in jail? That's another question. Everybody knows about
Pat King. No. Pat King's still in jail, as far as I know.
Well, that's what I mean. Everybody knows about him, but he's not the only one.
No,
there could be 100 other people arrested in Ottawa that they don't have social media profiles. They don't have
that aren't that high profile. Yeah,
they're just a regular person, and they just,
that's scary.
There's a bunch of political prisoners in Alberta.
And they did that. They did that to the January 6th people and tried to reimagine that event as well, right? Like, I think that they were really trying to use this and say this is the same thing as that. It's the echo, kind of like the Canadian version.
Well, and it's people are not happy with the way things are going.
No, I agree.
And you need to confront, and you need to talk to them and figure this out. Otherwise, it's only going to get worse. That's like you discover that your bedroom's on fire, so you just close the door and go elsewhere. Like,
Go
that's
back to
not
bed.
fixing anything. That's just going to make it way worse.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. When you come back, if the rest of the house doesn't burn down, when you come back,
As you come back, now the whole top floor is on fire.
Gone,
and you're gonna, this is the Nazis' fault or something. Like, or you're an idiot. And
it's racism. Racism got me again.
You could have dealt with this when it was a much smaller problem, but by the time it's going to blow up, and now you've got. This was before $2 gas, and this was before the inflation and before the housing market's probably on its way to imploding now. They've raised rates a couple times already. They're doing it again in the summer. They're going to do it again in the fall, and it's just going to. People on variable mortgages are going to lose everything. Your payments are $1,200 a month. That's not bad. Yeah, how about 2,000? Now it's going to be 2,700. Now it's 3,100 because it just like that.
Awful.
And you're toast. Like, they don't understand how it works, and they've grown up in a place that normally you didn't have to worry about stuff like that. When I was a kid, I don't know how old you are. I'm only 36, but like, even when I was like in my early 20s, like, there's just a general sense of like, everything is generally going to be fine. Like, there's adults in charge, like everything's under control. Now I'm very afraid that nothing is under control and no one is in charge. And if Canada was a bus or a train towards a destination that you can look out the window and go, oh, we're going right off a cliff. And when you charge into the cabin to say, what are you doing? It's just a monkey with a knife. There's no one in there. It's just like, oh, and he's got a top hat on, and you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense. So now it's like, well, who drives the bus? Like, I don't know how to drive a bus. Do you? Does anybody? Like, it's crazy. Like,
no, like, and it is. There's nobody, like, when you say the adults are in charge. I used to think the same, and I would always picture like my granddad,
capable, mature, reasonable. Like, I don't know what to do, but they do. Like,
pragmatic
they'll figure it out.
Who's like, listen, oh no, this is what's happening. They grab the plunger and they start plunging the toilet, and you're like, oh man, the day is saved, thank goodness.
Yeah. It's like realizing that you live in that movie Idiocracy, that Mike Judge movie, and you're like, even this is scary.
Very small. Stop putting Gatorade on your cross.
It was Pepsi. It was Brondo. It's what plants crave.
Brondo. It was supposed to be Gatorade. So
just the the money printing, the things they're doing that, like, I know are terrible ideas as an uneducated 36-year-old moron, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, that's really bad idea.
Hold on a second.
They might as well just be jamming forks in the toaster, and you're like, what are you doing? And like, don't worry about it, racist. You're like, that's not.
It's like, we all need to eat from that toaster, and you've got.
What are you doing? Who are you texting? Are you threatening the Russian Federation? Mind your own business, Nazi. That's a bad idea. They'll come over to our house and beat the shit out of us. They don't live far away either. They're just on the other side of town. They will come over here. Put that phone down right now.
Twitter diplomacy did not work out well for the Canadian government when Chrystia Freeland tried it. She's like, Donald Trump is doing it with such great ease. And then Chrystia Freeland and Climate Barbie also tried. And they both failed. Terrible.
Well, they're again, and it's like, they're not smart people. Like, they're not clever. They're not, they didn't get, and I think the problem is because they're like, maybe not, I don't know what the problem is, but sometimes I wonder about how, the system that's in place now is kind of constructed and maintained and pushed forward by way more serious people. I mean, like, we're talking like 1920s and 30s, like the guys that were running things then, and then their sons that took over to the 50s, 60s, 70s, right? And these are now like the grandchildren, the spoiled grandchildren of like really, mega killer, mafia type guys. Yeah. And now you've got these spoiled, rotten imbeciles who are just like, I mean, Hunter, I gotta be careful. Well, Hunter Biden is not an elected person. He's literally on crack and losing laptops at like Radio Shack. Like, these people are very beatable. They're idiots. Like, a lot of them are very dumb.
See, I think there's more to that. I think there's more to that whole story.
I think there's less. I think there's less to it.
I think there's maybe that's the whole trick of it. I'm looking way too deep, and you're like, no, man, it's so shallow.
Sometimes it's just, and I watch, I think there's a tendency for, especially if you're not completely dumb, to just assume these people are one, because for a long time, they've always been 2 steps ahead of everybody. And
I think that's just momentum. Like, if you know somebody's going to invest like billions of dollars in, like, the next big thing was AI. So like, everybody was like, oh man, so you can make millions of dollars if you're like, oh, I'm going to invest in this AI company that my grandfather and his friends are going to invest in tomorrow.
Yeah. Like, but it was easy for them. They didn't have to build it.
From scratch. No, they didn't have to problem solve. Like they didn't
No.
like if something came at them like a trucker's convoy,
Yeah.
like they didn't have to like improvise for it, right? Like and what they did
Yeah.
seemed plausible. And
It's like
now
it's
nothing
like the
seems
prime minister
plausible.
is King Tut or something. It's like a child emperor that
Yeah,
like
yeah,
doesn't know
yeah.
how to
That's
do anything. It's like you
yeah,
moron, you know, and you're
yeah.
just everyone's just doing what they're well, he's the emperor. He's 10 years old. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Don't listen
listen
to
to
him. It's a
him.
bad idea,
Well, he
obviously.
is the emperor. Like, no, he's not. He's 10, you know.
Uh,
Oh,
okay, so what's happened since the convoy? And like we'll wrap it up then. Like you were
sure.
or we'll wrap it up because I gotta go do bedtime.
Yeah. So
No, I'm sorry that we don't have more time. I'm sure we could do like another hour. This has been a lot of fun. We should do it again.
this is all I do, man.
Yeah, I mean, I do
Yeah.
a lot of it. Like I do a lot of interviews like this as well. But yeah, we should
Yeah.
definitely like make more time to chat because
Yeah, sure.
it's been interesting, and lots of fun. But since the convoy ended, since the whole thing finished, you had a news agency doing a workup piece on how they were focusing on Diagolon, didn't get released.
It was
You
Rebel
had
News.
okay, all right, and you had and like what else has happened since like that and now, or since the end of the convoy and now? Highlights
For me personally, or
well, just like within the scope of the convoy, like has it changed? Has it impacted things in a positive, negative, or
well,
or
I mean,
just
like
kind
I
of
said,
like,
I'm being heavily investigated, and they're really trying
yeah,
to find these conspiracy. Like I said, this cop called me. I think I got trailed off, and he
yeah,
was like, you know, like, well, how well do you know? How many times have you spoken to James Botter? And I was like, 0 times ever. I don't even know who that
yeah.
is.
Who?
Yeah,
Yeah,
literally. And they're like, well, how well do you know Pat King? I'm like, not at all. I've never talked to him in my life.
yeah,
And they're like, well, what about these guys? I'm like, I don't know who that is either. And he's like, so you literally don't know who any of these people are? I'm like, no, man. And
yeah,
he's like, I've been investigating you for a month and I can't find. I'm like, because there's nothing to find. He's
yeah.
like, well, how can you? He's like, please explain this to me because I'm fucking I'm getting irritated now. And I was like I said, the tabloids spin up the lies and the bullshit, the anti-hate network, and then that gets fit, you know, through the crisis and the, you know, everybody's emotionally high strung. That gets picked up by the media, and they just copy paste,
Yeah,
and you've
yeah,
got cops all spun up saying, "Go get the bad guys," and they're using the media as evidence. They're using
yeah.
CTV articles and shit, which is all
It's a rap
sourced
smear.
to the anti-hate net every single time. What's the primary source? It's Bernie Farber every single time.
Yeah,
So that's why you're here talking to an idiot in Nova Scotia on the phone who has nothing to, like, they fooled you. Like, if somebody, and I give them the answer, they're like, we can't admit what's happened because we're going to look like idiots. I'm like, well, here's what you do. You got to hang somebody. You hang Bernie Farber. That's who you hang. You hang that
yeah.
organization
You
that lied
hang
to
the
you,
anti-hate. Yeah,
created all this fake, false
they're protected,
hysteria
buddy. They're protected.
that well, they led nowhere. It's like, hey, it's you, or it's the CSIS director, or it's Brenda Lucky, or somebody's going to get fired here.
Yeah, the
Right?
powers
So
the powers that be say it's them.
yeah,
CTV, CBC, those things can burn, but the
they're going to have to
anti-hate,
find evidence. But
hey,
they should have to go. But you
jeepers
know, I
creepers.
don't know. I've had. And you know, Morgan and I, my girlfriend and I, were arrested here for something else stupid, and then again, politically motivated, very clearly, lawyers all over that one.
Yep.
For just standing in a street. You know, we were in jail for 4 days in solitary confinement with no change of clothes, no showers, not like, just throw us in a box for standing in the street. I had a guy come in the cell next to me, or covered in blood for an attempted murder. He was out back on the street 14 hours later, the next morning. He had a hearing and he was gone, and we were still there. And they wanted to keep us for another week because it was too dangerous to let us out yet. We had to assess the threat. I'm like, oh, wow. And this was because of, again, the things they've said about me. So I'm like, you know, the state perception is, and that's why I'm like leaning right into it. I play right along with it and pretend like, you know, because it's funny. Like, yeah, I'm a big terrorist guy. Like, yeah, because that's what they believe. But in the end, they're going to have to, to catch me. They're going to have to, but I'm not doing anything.
Produce, yeah, they're gonna have
so
to
there's nothing to find. So it's just become, this is hilarious, you know. And when we go to rallies and stuff, we go out all the time, and you know, she and I, we do events and speaking in this kind of thing. And there's a guy there with a full balaclava on and sunglasses, his hat pulled down, and he's taking pictures of me.
I saw
like,
that. You shared that the other day. I was like,
yeah, and then he just leaves. I'm like, did you think I wouldn't notice you? Or you look ridiculous, dude. But I've also, I've had CSIS agents going to all kinds of people's homes, my ex-girlfriend's house, people I used to live with, people, like all over the country. And some people are getting pictures of them. Some people are getting their business cards. I post those too. So I'm like doxing CSIS agents now just to be an asshole. I'll be like, well, you want to come intimidate people. And how about this? Now, if the Chinese or the Russians are watching, my Telegram page, now they know what you look like too. So that's interesting. How about that, you jackass?
Yeah.
So it's just this ongoing. So yeah, that's been what I've been up to.
Well, that's pretty. That's an awful nightmare. I'm sorry to hear that.
It's not that bad, really. I mean, once I think I've maxed out my stress level like a while ago. Now I just kind of laugh. So. Like, it's, what are they going to do? They're going to take away my birthday at this point? Like, I live out of a backpack. I got nothing they got nothing to take. I just sit here and have fun and do my thing and talk to people and that's it. Like, I'm not really too concerned about what's going to happen because I have no control over it anyway. And I know that nobody's doing anything. There's no insurrection that I'm aware of.
Me either.
Well,
if you hear of any white supremacist group, you let me know, because I'd love to interview them.
Yeah, like, that would be. Yeah. Who are these? Where is this?
Who are these people terrifying Justin Trudeau? I'd love to.
I do have a concern, though, that I haven't talked about much yet, because I'm not really sure how to approach this or whatnot. But I really feel like there's a threat. There's I can't say to what level or what certainty, but it does seem, just because of the circumstances and what these people have demonstrated they're willing to do already, that there is a threat if they're going to set something up for Canada Day. And there's a lot of,
if there's a protest there's
going to be something. There's a lot of people who are talking going back.
That, yeah.
They're trying to cancel it and say, well, no, you're not allowed on Parliament Hill. Like, they're going to show up anyway. It would be easy as pie. I mean, look what happened in Coots. Like, well, we'll just plant a truck full of guns somewhere and show up and arrest everybody. And now you've got 100 more political prisoners. To January 6th, a bunch of people would be very, very easy to do. They're just, and it could be anyone. Wrong place, wrong time. What are you doing next to these trucks? Whose guns are all these? It's like, I didn't know that was there. Well, now you have to prove that in court over the next year while you sit in a detention center somewhere in Ontario. But meanwhile, even if it's not true, it doesn't matter. Just like in the United States, it doesn't matter that the FBI encouraged people to come into the building. It doesn't matter. They all still arrested those guys and they achieved their political objectives. They got what they wanted. Right. And now they got, the tools and the eyes on. So, they got what they wanted. So I'm concerned that there's a threat of the same, like, they may try that, because if not, the specter of the horrible management of the country, the Emergencies Act over all this, if that does happen, if they pull something off and get away with it, that all goes away. And no one's ever going to talk about that again, because they're going to be focused on the new crisis and say, well, if there was a mistake, we were right. We were just too early. We just jumped the gun a little bit, but see, there was a threat. We told you. So in my mind, if I'm them, somebody's got to has tabled that option at this point, because what happens if they don't? Like, how much longer can this humiliation? I mean, there's no answer for what they've done. It's a dictatorship. They're just pulling the War Measures Act out of the closet whenever they want for nothing now. How much longer does it still go on?
Illegal? Yeah, it's still illegal. They didn't.
They
Senate didn't vote.
They have to hang a boogeyman.
Yeah,
to justify what they've done.
I'm worried they're gonna either have a false flag or manufacture some kind of evidence somehow to justify the boogeyman that they'll eventually hang. They were gonna try and target you, and maybe
I think they
will still, but
falsely confident. I think they were fed enough nonsense that they were confident that if they dug in, they would find something. Because they think that we're similar to like like Adam Waffen or something, or some of these groups like, they're having meetings about killing people and they're stockpiling weapons. Like, none of that's happening, but they figured we'll find something. And so
surely they're up to something.
But there are groups out there that I've kind of talked with a bit, and I'm concerned about some of the things they're saying, and not because of them particularly, but I feel like something is being set up from much higher. I asked them, I'm like, who are these people that you're talking about? Who's running this? Whose ideas is this? They go, oh, we don't know. Oh, you don't know. Yeah, that's a big red flag.
Yeah, that's a super big red flag. And I mean, like the Whitmer kidnapping case, like of the 8 people, 5 were glowy CIA or FBI agents.
FBI. And this is how it's done. It's not like it's an outlier. That's the norm. The norm is like the government attacks itself to head off, things like this. So it's very easy.
Preemptive strike, baby. You don't want the mushroom.
You grab a group like. That's what I think a lot of the QAnon stuff is. It's like you only need a couple people in key positions, like 2, and the other 10,000 have no idea what's going on. It's just these 2 guys that work. You have the BJ Dichters of the world come in, and whatever he did or whoever he is, he just shows up conveniently in certain times.
Interesting times, No, I've got questions about that as well.
But oh my goodness, that's what I'm worried about is something being string pulled from the shadows here coming up in the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, no, I hope not. I hope that I hope. I hope not. Holy smoke. Okay, 2 questions unrelated to the convoy. I think we did it justice. I think we talked pretty robustly about that. Okay, so we'll wrap it up with these 2 questions. Well, I mean, the second one, you'll be like this. It's like another hour conversation. But the first one, what do you think of Pierre Poilievre?
I gotta be careful. I can't.
Oh, you could just say pass, and then we can talk about it next time.
I'm trying to think of how to phrase this exactly so I don't. Because I'm not allowed to. So, in protest is the terminology. So basically, I can't by name trash talk any politician. Not allowed to. I can say their names, but none of them being mean about them.
Okay.
Right. So
is that like a? I wouldn't be able to do my job.
It's I gotta come up with nicknames and work around. They thought I couldn't. Like they're like, well, they were some of my bail conditions they tried to put on me and Morgan were like Pat King, like no internet, no phones, no tablets, no computers, ankle bracelet, house arrest, separate, and we're like, that's crazy. Fought it because it was insane. But anyway, they tried to stick this in here thinking. But anyway, as far as the conservative leadership debate race goes, I don't care who wins because no one wins. That party is completely controlled by all the same people that, it's all the same thing. They're just, it's like professional wrestling at this point. I mean, you want to like that, the campaign chair of that guy's campaign is a World Economic Forum Young Leaders Award recipient.
Yep.
Right. And they're out there being like, oh, we're really against it. Like, are you? You should tell your number
crown
one
jewel
guy then.
Of the party. Yeah. Of the committee.
Did he approve this messaging and this kind of stuff? And it's really, he's just telling people what they want to hear because that's what they do. And where were you the last 2 years? All of a sudden you're all about, freedom and all this and that. And it's like, you had 2 years to figure that out, but now it's it's political opportunism. You see an opportunity in a way for you to, move on to the next rung in the ladder, and you took it. It has nothing to do with doing what's right and wrong. And that's what I want in somebody that's going to be a leader is going to do the right thing because it's the right thing, not because something in it for them. So if you get someone like that, then what else will they do? Because there's something in it for them. They'll sell you out. Yeah. Because they're focused primarily on themselves. If there's something else will change down the road. And, I guarantee all these people that are so high on them and, it's going to be, you just got to get the libs out. They always say like, you're just replacing, a new manager. That's like, you're going to take down McDonald's, the corporation. And it's like, well, we got the manager fired at a local branch. Like that did nothing. They'll just put in a new, what? Like, do you hear yourself? I mean, like, these unelected bureaucrats, these people at Bilderberg and at Davos and at the World Economic Forum. And these are the people that run the world. No one's our leaders that, we select.
We don't even have a concept. We don't even have a concept of how to address that level of.
We can't because people. We're not a sovereign. We're not a sovereign country anymore. We have our leaders and they go and kneel at the altar of these people and listen to these unelected, billionaires who stand up on podiums and tell them what to do. So who are we electing? We're electing managers. If that's at best. So
if we're lucky.
Until somebody comes out and says exactly what's going on and does something about it, besides give me money for my campaign, even though it cost $500,000 to even run. So come on, poor people, give me some more money. I don't care for,
$300,000 just to get into the leadership race for the
talking out of both sides of their mouth. And I actually like the conservatives less than the liberals, because at least they're honest about being evil. The liberals tell you what they're going to do and they do it. And the conservatives say, oh no, we're not like that. And they'll lie.
You're right. The liberals are very straight up. They're very very clear. Like, we don't like these people, and
they're at least they're upfront about it, right? The conservatives pretend to be your friend and then stab you in the back when it suits them. Like that's worse in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. The last question, we may have to kick to the next time because it's big. Yeah. But how has Canada changed in your opinion in the last few years? Like, and like when I mean that by when I looked at my future when I was leaving school, let's say like at 20, I thought Canada had potential you could do anything you wanted to be. If you grabbed something and you were really good at it, you could be a millionaire, or you could eke out a really good life. You could raise a family. You could do anything you wanted within that context of things. And I thought I was really optimistic that I thought there was a lot of potential in this country. And I thought, I've got a lot of opportunity here. My kids will have a lot of opportunity here. I think I'll have kids. You know what I mean? Like that's how I was viewing things. So, and my view of Canada through that lens has changed a little bit now. And I struggle with how to move forward with that knowledge. So I'm wondering about if your opinion of Canada has kind of undergone a kind of similar transformation.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'll try and use some brevity for once,
Yeah.
and say that when I was younger, Canada was a place that you were hopeful, and you had, a lot of opportunity, and it was, everything was going to be okay, and you could do, whatever you wanted to do, you were free to go ahead and do that. Now it's a country that you just try and survive.
Yeah.
Everyone's just worried about surviving the next 10 years, not growing or do. It's just like, how do I not starve? How do I not lose everything? How do I not lose? Do we got to leave? Do we got more people are leaving than at any time since 1970?
Yep.
That's not
I've certainly
good.
thought about it.
The general mood of people,
yeah,
it went from, kind of a happy, jovial, generally like, whatever everybody's into. They're watching hockey. These people are going to, their kids, ballet thing, and everything's kind of, now it's just like, when you talk to people, it's almost a general kind of unspoken. So how bad are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm barely hanging on, and that's basically everybody. Everybody's stressed out and tired and worried and afraid.
Yep.
So it's changed dramatically. It's gone from, a country of opportunity to a country that you just try and survive.
Yep. Yeah. No,
welcome to Russia is 1978 or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And so there's that kind of worry. And if you have the means, I said to my friend, if you have the means, you use all means necessary to survive. If you can run, you run. Right. And my friend was like, yeah, but it's not that bad. And I was like, okay.
That's like not jumping out of the Titanic because only the bottom 3 floors are underwater.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not even most of the ship yet. So don't worry about it. It's like, you don't understand. There's a fatal wound.
Yeah, like at a certain point. Yeah.
And with time, it will become worse. That's like finding out you have terminal cancer or something and going, well, that's.
Yeah, I'll ignore that.
Like this is not, you need to, your life needs to now change dramatically because of the situation you found yourself in. Ignoring it is not going to make it better.
Yeah. One thing that I found has been a constant, or not a constant, but near universal. People who leave Canada, like people who get a job outside of Canada, nurses or teachers that I know moved to New York because they got teaching jobs or something. They're like, I can't believe how much they take in taxes.
Oh yeah.
My one friend started living there and pays for their own insurance for healthcare. They're like, healthcare is so fucking cheap. Like I was like, they're like, it's like, not that it's so cheap, but compared to what you pay in Canada, compared to what I pay for my co-pays and all the other stuff,
we have one of the highest tax burdens in the world.
Yeah. And she says, and
most of it's for healthcare, which, I got free healthcare. Yeah, you get what you pay for. It's terrible. Yeah. It's terrible healthcare.
Right. It's like it's like the pizza at Chuck E. Cheese. You're like, oh man, all right.
I like the level of healthcare that we get here, like what you expect, like no one, it's like you have to go to the hospital. Oh no. Yeah. Like I feel like this is what.
How long did you spend in? It's like my brother told me I had to, because he sometimes, gets hurt or whatever at work. And he's like, oh, I had to go to the hospital. And I was like, oh man, like my first question was, how long did you spend in Emerge? Like,
yeah.
Right.
Were you there all night? Did you bring 3 sandwiches? Like you need to bring meals, but you literally do. You literally need to pack meals, and like you're going to be there a while, all day at least. 10, 12, maybe 16 hours. And the service is terrible. Like, the doctors are.
The doctors, I've never had a bad interaction with the doctors. Sometimes the nurses are cold. Yeah. So I've had cold nurses, like where they're very just done. But I think I'd probably be like that too. So
it's just like, it feels like you're in like 1980s Belarus or something. It's like, this is what I would expect. This does not feel like, for the amount of money, it's Canada, right? This is our hospital system.
Yeah.
Everything is in rapid decay. Like everything you can imagine. I was speaking to my uncle recently, and he said something like, name me a single part of the government or society, anything that's functioning correctly or efficiently or doing better than it used to be. Everything's effed worse or way worse. It's either a little worse or way worse. Like that's not, we're a culture and a civilization in free fall decline across the board.
Yeah. And like the money is through inflation worth less, like less and less and less. Buying power is less and less and less. So I mean, like there's a massive argument
try
to
to
be made.
just try to survive. It's not like, where am I going to be in 10 years? I bet it's going to be wonderful and amazing. I'm like, I hope I'm alive in 10 years.
Yeah.
That's
so
it.
in the year 2000, I thought, or the year 2000, in like my early 20s, 20 years ago, holy smoke,
Yeah.
I'm 40. So
Okay.
I thought, man, like I was so optimistic, and I thought we could do anything. Like we're so
Mhm.
like we're so smart. We've got so much potential. We could do anything,
Yeah.
right? We're so not inclusive, but we're so open to
Yeah.
new ideas that we could tackle and problem solve well, difficult problems. And what happened was everybody's like, "You're racist." It's like, "Oh, what happened? Where did we go wrong?"
It's like I like to use hockey analogy sometimes, because I don't know too many. I used to be a huge hoquey fan. I just don't care anymore lately. But
it's hard to care.
And then there's the military, and then there's this stuff. Like that was pretty much my whole life, is these three things. And it's like, this is like Canada. Like you just fired the puck up to a guy on a breakaway on an empty net, and not only did you miss the net, you fired the puck into the crowd and killed a little girl somehow. And now something's on fire. Like, how did you fail this spectacularly? How did you take something that was this rock solid and just completely cocked it up as bad as you have? It's almost impressive. And I like to say that, because there's conspiracy theory. Like, I used to say that I'm a conspiracy theorist, but like that's a bad label for a lot of reasons, because there's a lot of people that are like absolutely insane. Like the things you were saying are schizophrenically level crazy. So I don't like to be associated with that. But anyway, they'll say, well, they're doing it on purpose. They're destroying the country. I'm like, I don't know, but if your intention was to destroy the country, what would they be doing differently?
Yes. Yeah.
What else could they? What are they doing that they're not doing already? Like,
look
they're
at
doing everything. Right? So it's hard to believe they're not doing it on purpose at this point. It's like, I can't think of anything else short of going town to town and just setting hospitals on fire and killing people in the streets. Like, I don't know what else
they're playing the long. They're playing the long game, though, right?
Yeah.
That's it. And like over a long, like you said, through the inflation, like the money doesn't go nearly as far, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Nope. So it's going to burn itself out anyway through its own, through the weight of running itself.
I think the math said, like, by this time next year, at the current rates and everything's going, like, your buying power is going to be half.
Awesome.
To stay in the same place you are right now, this time next year, you need to make twice as much money as you do right now.
Oh, buddy.
Because it's going to be $4 gas, and it's going to be, everything's going to be way worse. So it's going to be, but this winter is going to be interesting. Just people are going to go, well, do we have Christmas, or do we, have food? Sorry, kids. It's canceled like this. And that's infuriating. Like, again, like Canada, we had it all. We had everything. We have $1 trillion economy. We have more oil and gas than Saudi Arabia. We have like basically unlimited natural resources. I mean, the farming agricultural industry alone of Alberta and Saskatchewan could feed North America probably.
Yep.
I mean, there's so much. And how are we?
If they could use trains to move the product,
right?
Instead
and it's
of
just
moving.
It's
oil.
intentional. They've intentionally. Someone has.
Nobody.
When they do things like. Well, no, it's because, it's the sustainable development agenda, which is a cynical term. The sustainable development of the elite that run the world is that's what it means when they, they're
they don't want us using their resources.
Right. When the prime minister does something like, he shuts all the coal plants down in Calgary, worth like $160 million or something like that, and then takes $160 million and then invest. This happened in the same week, and then invests them in coal plants in China.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you didn't do it for the environment then, because you just did the same thing in a different place. You did this to destroy and harm the Canadian workers and help the Chinese.
Yep.
Who are you?
Yep.
Like,
wow. And the way the press protects them is just wild.
Yeah. Well, and that's a very, authoritarian Soviet Union type.
Yeah. I was going to say that's a different kettle of fish, but it's the other side of the same coin.
They're the primary. If I had to pick one thing that if you could fix one thing that might have an impact overall to change the trajectory, it would be the media. They got to go, all of them. Yep.
All of them. Yep.
Not even replace them, just get rid of them.
Gone. Yep.
And that's
the misinformation is just unbelievable. But jeepers creepers.
Just get rid of all the legacy media, and then okay, carry on. People will find information from other sources.
They will.
And they'll eventually figure it out.
I might start growing my channel then.
Yeah. Well, the magician has disappeared from the stage. He doesn't have the monkeys and the jingling keys anymore, and people are going to want to know what the hell is going on, and they'll figure it out.
They'll figure something out. Yeah. All right, dude. I've got to go do some bedtime stuff with my kids.
Yep.
So this has been wonderful, and we will definitely have to do this again.
Thank you.
I think that this has been such a worthwhile conversation, because I think our government is acting in a really, really crazy way. And I think the only way we can move forward from it is to really talk about it in a robust way, and not in a way where we're like, F them and F this and blah, 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 but have a conversation that's real between real people, and like people who are interested in solving this problem, and not just, screaming and pointing fingers.
Which is what I do 3 times a night, 3 times a week.
There's a time and place
it's a
for
different
that too.
thing. I've got different gears, if you know what I mean. But I
multi-talented.
But to be on the bright side of it, I guess, is I've kind of been thinking and talking about stuff like this for years now online. I think you have too as well. These days, it's 10 times more people than it was 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like mainstream. Like the country is in trouble is now a mainstream idea. When 3-4 years ago it was, you're a crazy person, everything's fine, and you're
in 2018 really nobody would have believed you. But now
exactly,
it's a totally different story.
That's when I started. I think 2017, 2018, and it was like, I might get 100 views a video or something, and everyone's like, and they call it's the rise of misinformation. We have to battle they're losing the narrative because they're lying. Because so now the only way to.
And they don't have the resources. They don't have, because the lies take resources to maintain, and they don't have the resources to maintain them anymore. And so they're using the power of the state.
They'll just silence everybody else, and they'll be the only people that are allowed to talk. And
only game in town. That's it.
They think that's how they win. That's actually how they secure the fate. Like you've guaranteed some kind of violent uprising at some time in the future.
Well, when people have no recourse, you see people do things that they wouldn't otherwise do, and I think they're being forced, and I think the government wants
that's what made us a good like a Western civilized country. It was that when there was issues, we would talk about them openly, publicly, transparently, and we would figure out what to do about it and move on. And now they went, no, this is how it's done, and everybody shut up or we'll kill you. Well, that's going to end horribly. Right. That not deplatforming and censoring and just hide these people away. We don't talk to them. But that doesn't. They think it's preventing online harm and violence and haze. Like that doesn't prevent violence. That ensures violence.
Yeah, that is violence. Like they're the perpetrators of the violence.
Yeah, and we're not going to let you talk about it. So what happens when a man can't talk? He's going to express himself somehow, and it's not going to be good.
And you're not going to like it. You're going to like it even less than what he has to say. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's not going to be happy about it. So
all right, man, we got to edit there. Thanks everybody for watching. Jeremy, where can they find you?
ragingdissident.com has all of my stuff, all my social media stuff there, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. It's all on there. Whatever you want to use, it's on the website. That's the best spot.
Wonderful. And
they can't cancel that, I don't think.
I don't yet. Not yet. They're trying to pass the law.
Bill C11 will see to that, or C12, whatever it is.
I'm interested because anyway, we'll talk about that next time. Thanks for watching. You guys probably know where to find me. So hang out in the green room for a minute after I push the